Hello and welcome to this week's 5 Minute Friday, and this week's polarising topic is going to be, are you a proper photographer if you shoot with a mobile phone? Now, with the iPhone 17 hitting the market and Samsung being up to whatever number they are with their S range, there is some serious hardware in these phones for taking photographs. But does it actually make you a photographer if that's what you're using? So that's going to be today's topic, so let's fire a timer somewhere on the screen and let's see if we can cover it in 5 minutes. Okay, so let's look at the gear first. There is a common misconception that a phone is not a proper camera, and I used to believe that. I used to think this rectangular thing, which is very, very difficult to hold without covering the lens, so easy to drop, just felt terrible in the hands. Therefore, I overlooked it as being a potential tool that I could use to get great shots. But when you put a mirrorless or a DSLR in your hands, there's something about the weight of it, the shape of it, that just engages you in the process of taking photographs. And for me, that was the big thing that mobile phones were lacking, the immersion in photography. But once I got over that and started to treat my mobile phone like a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, my photographs immediately started to improve. And another opinion that gets thrown about is, phones are cheap, cameras are expensive. Now again, if you go flagship with the iPhone or the Samsung, they're more expensive than some of the entry-level cameras that people are still shooting great photographs with today. So I think the argument about cheap versus expensive doesn't really hold water anymore. But one other thing that I think differentiates the two pieces of gear is the way that it feels in your hand and how easy it is to change the settings. Now with my R5, I've got the dials and the switches all under my thumb when I'm holding the camera, but with my iPhone, I find that I have to go into different menus, I have to change settings. Yeah, you can control exposure by putting your thumb on the screen and sliding it up and down, but it's a bit more difficult than doing it on the fly with your thumb in the right place. Now on to the next thing, and I think this is the most important, especially for me, is that when I'm using a mobile phone, my mentality completely changes. If I'm holding my R5, I'm looking at composition, I'm looking at light, I'm getting myself set up, am I using a tripod, do I want to use some filters, what's going to make this scene look the best? When I grab my mobile phone, I put it up, stand way away from it, hit the button and say, that'll do. Now I'm going to put some photographs up on the screen, and in my opinion, I think they stand up against some of my other photographs, but that's just my opinion. And the reason I think they were better than the majority of the photographs that I used to take with my mobile phone is because I slowed down, I started thinking about composition, I started exploring the menus, I started shooting in RAW, I started controlling the exposure manually, and I stopped the phone from making all of the decisions for me. And it's very similar to using your own camera and changing from maybe auto mode to aperture priority or to full manual. As long as you start using the proper settings for that scene, you stand a great chance of getting a good image. But anyway, here are the images and you can make up your mind for yourself. And bearing in mind, this is a flagship iPhone 17. Or is it? But what about the quality of the photographs, David? You can't argue that a mobile will take just as good photographs as a mirrorless or a DSLR camera. Well, that might have been the case in the past, but I think we've passed that threshold, and especially with social media, when you're looking at things on smaller screens, it's very, very difficult to see that difference in quality. Yeah, it might be slightly different if you're trying to blow it up and put it on your wall at 6 feet by 4 feet or whatever it may be, but really for what most of us use it for, a mobile phone can take really stunning photographs. Which leads me on to my next point. If you're using your mobile phone for photography, don't just use the editing software that might be in your camera app. At least download Lightroom for your mobile or something similar and spend a bit of time learning how to edit those photographs. Because if you spend your time, set up a good composition, and then when you finish that part of the shoot, spend a little bit of time bringing the most out of your photograph. Treat it as if you would a normal image that you'd taken with your other camera. I promise you'll get some stunning results, even though you might not want to. Which brings me to my next point. Why do we think this debate even exists? Is it because we're snobs if we're spending thousands of pounds on lenses and cameras and tripods, and if we see somebody just rock up with a mobile phone and taking a photograph, there's a kind of inherent dislike of that because it looks so easy? Or is it because we think that there's no talent involved in that, I struggle to see what the issue really is, but it definitely exists, and I did experience it myself a little bit when I first started out. I dropped thousands of pounds on my gear and my lenses. I took a photograph with it, which I thought was great. I uploaded it to Instagram, and the very next photograph next to it was taken with a mobile phone, and it had 10 times the amount of likes that my photograph had. So I definitely did feel a little bit of gear envy, or what's the opposite of gear envy, because I had the gear and they technically didn't. I don't think that's the case anymore, and that's kind of backed up by the amount of accessories that you can buy for your mobile phone. If you want a grip for it, if you want dials for it, new different types of software, you can make it feel more like a camera. And with the evolution of the mobile phone and the camera getting better every single year, this isn't going anywhere anytime soon. So either embrace it or we get left behind. Personally speaking, I would much rather see somebody using a mobile phone and getting great photographs than somebody who's dropped a ton of money on gear and then ends up in Photoshop using generative fill to fix the issues that they have with their photos. I've talked a lot about the launch of the iPhone 17 and its fantastic new camera, but the photographs that I've shown you today, they weren't taken on that because I don't have one. These are 2-year-old iPhone 15 photographs, so the technology has moved on quite a bit since then, but it still proves the point that you can take good photographs with cameras that are now 3, 4, 5 years old. It doesn't have to be the most recent and the most expensive. So as we like to do with the 5 Minute Friday videos, it's over to you in the comments. Let me know if there's something that I'm overlooking or if my opinions are outdated or wrong. Just let me know what you think, because I think treating mobile phones like second-class citizens is an outdated way of thinking. And remember that very famous phrase, the best camera in the world is the one that you have with you. And with mobile phones fitting into pockets, you've not got an excuse once you learn how to use it. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like and a subscribe and come along and join me, because there's another video coming in a couple of days and you won't want to miss that one. In the meantime, you could watch this one to get by. Thanks guys.